Hello, Tom Lavecchia here with a special edition of the New Theory Podcast. The last few podcasts were focusing on the SBA, the PPP, and basically where the hell's my money. I'm a hurting business owner right now, but our next guest, Frank Scurlock, he's the national chairman of Liberate America, and I'm judging by the pitch that I got, and we'll talk about it today, is if he gets his way, we'll be open for business ASAP and not be in any need of these loans. Frank, welcome to the New Theory Podcast. How you doing today?
You know, I am great. I'm actually in ground zero of our government. I'm at 1100 Pennsylvania Avenue in the Trump Hotel.
Wow. Okay. So it's fair to say that you lean a bit Republican. I don't think that's a stretch at this point. Correct?
Well, it actually do I vote? Am I registered that way? Absolutely. But am I independent free thinker? Absolutely as well. You know, and that's the unique thing about democracy. You know, I think actually it's counterproductive if you have a movement that everybody just goes for the party lines or stuff. I like to actually know what I'm talking about and thinking about.
That's a great point, and I respect that because you know, again, I'm just, you know, although not that you want to label everyone, just it's easy to identify like-minded people. And I know some folks, again, are libertarian who may not be Republican, and there are people that may be Democratic, but they may agree on certain social issues. So I agree with you, Donna, Frank. That's a good point. So let's cut to it, okay? So George is leading the charge on, hey, you know what? Not only would we reopen, but we're going to open up the nail salon where there's close contact. We're going to open up you know, the movie theaters. We're going to open up the gyms, places that are more communicable and more conducive to possibly spreading the virus. So give us, I'm not, listen, I'm just letting you know right now, personally, I do watch CNN, but then I watch Fox News. I really try to get different points of view toward the situation. I personally don't think should be as much of a political one, but I want to hear your point of view. So is Georgia right by opening up, and why?
Absolutely, because the country was founded on freedom. We have to remember that. Okay. Our liberties, that's not – you actually said something amazing just about you watch 2. Well, I actually watch 4. On DirecTV, they have a special channel that has not only CNN, Fox, they have MSNBC, and they have the BBC. So you can watch 4 things at one time, and you can really learn really quick what's happening. And – you know, I actually went to school in broadcasting many years ago in Loyola, and to me, a true broadcaster should not tell you what to think. Broadcasters should actually be equipped with the best technological equipment to spread a message and deliver and report by using their lens and their microphone. But their microphone should not be from their anchor trying to persuade you. Their microphone should be interviewing the people, whoever is either affected or trying to make a position on something, and then the people, that's we the people, get to decide.
Okay, I'm with you on that. Okay, so if we look at the core, okay, so we're United States of America, we have 50 governors, have like provinces and so forth, commonwealths, I guess, even in some cases, but we have 50 governors primarily. And the way it's structured, and Trump acquiesced to it eventually and said, hey, the governors call the shots, okay? And literally, quote, unquote, the governors call the shots.
As he should. I mean, if we don't preserve state rights, I mean, then you talk about a whole democratic takeover and a hierarchy, then why even have states? I mean, that's at the bottom.
Which is a good point. So, okay, so let's take Governor Kemp in Atlanta, which, although it's increasing and every life matters, we know that it's not quote unquote a hot spot. I'm not being insensitive to anybody, hopefully, but it's not a hot spot in terms of the numbers. But every life matters. I need to make that clear. Now, I'm in New Jersey where I lost an uncle to it. You know, I had a family member who had it. It's affecting our economic life. It's affecting our personal life, our professional life in every way. So this subject is near and dear to my heart. So if the data shows social distancing works And if the data shows the shelter-in-place works, and I'm not talking about, like, I believe in Fauci personally. I believe in Birx. I think they're reasonable people. I don't think they have a political agenda. The data that I'm understanding is these things work. It's helping control the spread. And really quick, I'm not going to soapbox, but, like, there's community spread, right? So if I have it, I stay home for 14 days, goes through my systems, I go to the antibodies, should be good to go, right? I think they're trying to limit the community spread, which appear to be working. So if the science says, hey, yeah, go on.
Let me give a little feedback. Do we believe in the scientific data? Absolutely. But we also believe in the historic data. And if you go back and you look at the founding of our country, it didn't happen in all 15 or all 50 states at one time. Remember, it was the 13 colonies, then we started acquiescing along the way. So what did these states bring in? They brought in natural resources. Some had whatever oil, some of them had grain. It's across the whole United States. My hometown, for example, New Orleans, we have the port, we have the river, and we also have great festivals. Where was the greatest pandemic of the virus? It was New Orleans for a very long time, and I think it actually still is. My son got it. My son was almost cured until I got a distress call yesterday that he's back in relapse again. It doesn't go away that easy. So, but there's two things going down at the same time. Okay. Number one is the medical virus. But that medical virus, because of just the protection from it, when you go into a defensive mode and you shut down everything, they just threw up things. Stop this, stop this, stop this. I was in a 7-Eleven yesterday in Washington, D.C., 2 blocks from the White House, and I could not get a fountain drink because of a virus. Something's wrong, right? Now, on the same time, in that same 7-Eleven, they had 2 vending machines that sold lottery tickets. In those lottery machines, the word out was all across it because people are living like it's the end of time, and they're scared. Also, when you go to Georgetown and you drive around, about 25% of the windows in stores are boarded up. Are they expecting a hurricane like from Louisiana? Of course not. Are they concerned that the people are they're not really going to just revolt because they want to. They're going to be hungry. Last night, we actually had a tour guide took us, believe it or not, to Nancy Pelosi's house on the Potomac River. Have you ever been to her house before?
Did you evaporate in flames? What happened?
Well, I actually saw something happen, and I think I'm going to make a very good point. So I forget the name of the building, but it's 3000 K Street is where she lives. It's in a $25+ million condo development. They have incredible boat slips for people to bring in their $5 and $10+ million boats. There's some individual, as a computer executive, not only does he have a yacht, he's got a red one and he's got a blue one. What do you think that means? He plays both sides of the table. So it was actually having a light sprinkle last night as we walked by there. And they had these 3 ducks that were like walking on, it was kind of like a pier structure where the boats park. Usually where I also have a home in Florida, we have ducks. But when I walk up the ducks, you know what the ducks do? They run away because they're scared. Last night, it was totally the opposite. The ducks ran up to us because they're hungry. The ducks typically are part of a food train to people's waste. They go dig in the trash cans. They take stuff off the ground. These stimulus checks, let's be realistic. How long is a $1,200 check going to last for those that truly need it?
It's a stopgap.
And when I was in that convenience store last night, I don't vape, but the cashier told me something. He said, "Look at my box. This guy just walked in and he bought 6 vapes at $39 a piece." And the very first thing that went in my mind is, I bet you I know where that money came from. I lived it in New Orleans, which was a very similar situation where they gave out a ton of money, just out of control giving, and virtually no accountability.
Well, Frank, we'll agree on that. Where should we subsidize this stopgap with governmental funds? Is that the way to go, other than be a stopgap? I'll agree with you on that, right? But hold on, but I'm judging. Hold on. Frank, let me speak. But you also believe in people's personal freedom, which doesn't count people's money. So what I'm getting at is, if somebody does spend it in a way that's maybe not appropriate in your core goods, canned goods and ammunition or whatever people want to spend it on, the core stuff, right?
I hope not ammunition.
Well, you know what I mean. What I'm getting at is, if we're at a level where things are dire and it's not going towards necessities and it goes towards extra stuff, right? That's kind of real quick. But I like it. So I categorically think I disagree with everything you're saying, but I like it, right? So because I like it, I'm really listening even more and saying, wait a second, I'm actually agreeing with him that people could do what the hell they damn well please. So isn't that consistent with that? If somebody wants to drop $250 in vapes, although it may be idiotic to me personally, that's okay because that's their right.
It is their coping method. Okay?
Got it.
The same reason alcohol sales went through the roof, continue to go through. To be honest with you, it's the same reason I had one of the most expensive steaks I ever ate my entire life last night at the hotel I'm staying at. Because I'm not going to wait till tomorrow. It is not guaranteed, by the way.
Yeah.
And this is where we have the crossroads. And it's such a tragedy. I've owned international businesses. So in a typical week, I talk to people all around the world. India, Japan, Singapore, whatever. Yesterday, I was talking to somebody in Hyderabad, India. And I just thought for a second, they might have had a little dog walking down the street, okay, a little 10-pound Chihuahua dog. That dog is affected, okay? His food chain. Did you happen to see the video of the rats taking over the French Quarter in New Orleans?
I heard about it.
Because they were hungry. We've totally disrupted everything. And to be honest with you, no matter how much money they put out there and how fast the wheels of the bus spin, I don't think it's going to be able to correct it. So we are going to have a landing on the bottom. It simply has to happen, and that's when the reset is going to occur. And that's when we will have a major turn, and we will bounce back. But for those, and that what we're really seeing right now, I believe, is a very visual of who was living so close to the edge of their means. Does that make sense?
No. And here's the thing, though. I don't disagree with a lot of what you're saying, because me and I'm be totally transparent. At first, I'm like, shut this bitch down. Let's just close everything. If everyone has it, close it down for 3 weeks. Enough time to just lock it down, kick the disease, and let's get back out, right? And obviously, it was staggered, and you can't really do that, right? So I'm actually that's where I came from, right? But then now, I applied, and I had 2 podcasts on this. I applied for PPP, I applied for the EIDL, I applied for second party. I'm about to go to a Shylock, because I need money. I did.
What is your success rate on getting these?
Nothing. So my EIDL, they said it came out. And
isn't that? I actually have a friend that I'll just say at one of the states in the union. He's head of the SBA for that state. Yeah. He is frustrated as all get out. He has zero input with anything that's happening up here. And the rules keep changing. Literally, right before they hit the word send, they probably changed it. And the big banks were out to clobber the little banks, which was a timeout. You can't do that. We're all in this together. There is no one that's exempt. And let me say something quickly, and just a quick observation.
Please.
In the past week, I was in Denver where we actually launched Liberate America, and they had a peaceful rally, and they had every cross-section of America represented. They had the typical Joe. They had the girl with the pink hair. They had the immigrants there. They had gays, straights, and lesbians. And you know what? It was nice. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. They did have a couple cars driving around with some horns. And sadly, they had two media outlets there. One was the local ABC affiliate. Two was America's Voice Network, which is a streaming service. So, as I mentioned, I'm staying at Trump International Hotel, Pennsylvania Avenue. I actually kind of jokingly say, oh, this is his backup plan if he didn't get in the White House. Well, yesterday afternoon, about 4 o'clock, all of a sudden, here comes 50 cars driving down Pennsylvania Avenue, stop right in front. Then they take out this big inflatable, and they pump it up. Then they bring in a couple vans full of body bags, and they start laying them all down the sidewalk with all these Trump lies signs, right? Now, here's the interesting catch. Remember how it kind of happened right in front of our eyes? How did over 20 members of the media attend that? You think it was set up and staged? Somebody needs to question
No, I'm not. That's the thing. Like, I'm not disagreeing. I'm with you on that. But so, all right. So here's this. Okay. So we have a president that, whether we like it or not, there needs to be some sort of unification of the states that govern, right?
Wait, so can I? This is
go ahead, Frank, because I'm enjoying this.
I think this is going to help you a lot.
Please.
You didn't ask me why I'm in the Trump Hotel. I was approached
that's
by
right.
a team of scientists.
I'm like a libertarian in a former life, because like you could stay in friggin' wherever. Like that's your gig. I don't.
No. Please listen for 1 second.
Yeah.
I was invited to come out here by a group of scientists, of physicists. One of them's from Newport, California. One of them's from Park City. One of them's from Dallas. They happen to, between the three of them, put together a potential cure and prevention for the virus. They have reached out to the CDC. They have gone on I guess it must be the east side of the White House where the press goes in and out. There's a little black phone. If you don't have an appointment, you can pick it up and you can call to make an appointment. They have done everything. They went to Mike Pence's house. They actually went to the Air Force graduation to see Mike Pence. They just told me they just told me they have abandoned ship and giving up because nobody at the White House administration will take a phone call. They actually played for me a recording that they made when they tried to contact the CDC, which is more interested in collecting data statistics on your phone call, why you called, and what your race and ethnicity is, as opposed to press it one, talk to a human. It's such a bad game. So guess what these scientists are doing? They're going to be launching and selling at minimal prices. Check this out. They have a bracelet that has been programmed with frequencies that drive the virus off your body. How cool is that? Under $300. And guess where their marketplace is? It's international. And because the FDA won't acknowledge that something exists besides a vaccination, they're going after global markets. And isn't it shameful? Because these are Americans that put their heart and soul into making something. That's so disappointing to me. And I never once said the Trump organization is right.
Well, that's sad in terms of, like at this point, the FDA is fast tracking. At this point,
they're fast tracking the insiders. Let me also say this, especially when it comes down to oxygen therapies. This is malaria that's being circulated. I was shown, and I was actually presented and reviewed patents of a product to cure it as well, which, I always work under the philosophy, trust but verify, because you get a lot of wackies out there, and if it ends with a .com, that would be commercial. If it ends with a .org, that's an organization, or a .net, it's a network of people. Like, for example, our organization, Liberate America Now.org, because we are bringing everybody together. There's no winners in this game here, okay? We're all going to suffer defeat. The real question for the surviving of our country is we have to unify and come together. We truly do. And if you've been a business person like myself that travels the world, we only really have one asset left that we haven't mortgaged to the hilt. And you know what that is? It's our country code. Number one, you can go anywhere in the world and dial 001 and end up back in America. And that's because of innovation and technology. And that is why we are the superpower we are. And hopefully we get to maintain.
Okay. I mean, we're going to conclude. I'm with you. But are you 100% good with dining in a restaurant right now without a mask, waiter without a mask? Are you 100% good with that today?
I will tell you what I did last night and which I would do every night as long as the rule's in effect. I will do the 36 square feet perimeter, okay? If it's friends, I absolutely will follow the rule of what has been asked of me. Now, if it's at my household with my children and my spouse, I think I have I intend to sleep in the same room with my spouse. So the answer is, if it's family, I take exception. If they're asking me to do that, because, you know, I mean, and it's not just this virus along the way. Let's be realistic. The spreading of all the different viruses and stuff, they obviously spread. And as Trump says, it's the invisible enemy. So guess what? You can't see it. But what the scientists showed me with their bracelets, they showed me and demonstrated the ways that they know they can eradicate this. And this is where, as much as I want to say I'd like Trump, but I got to tell you, I was so disenfranchised to hear these people have asked for nothing, and they developed something, and they can't get anything, so they invested thousands of dollars to come here, stay in the right place, try to meet the right people, and they told me early this morning they gave up. They're going home. And that is the American tragedy, because if we don't have maintained the spirit of innovation, because this is all about setting us up to bounce back good. And by the way, one of the big true problems for the entrepreneurs such as myself, because I develop stuff and I flip them off, right? They're already saying we're going to have a boomerang on this thing. They don't know if it's September, October, or November, but I just told you my own son, he had it 3-4 weeks ago. I got the 911 call yesterday afternoon, and I took the bracelet that the scientists gave me. I found the nearest Federal Express location, and I overnighted them. And I guarantee you, within 10 minutes of putting it on his wrist, it started to change his body and will start expelling the virus. Keep in mind, you can't see it, right? But it's in you, and it goes back to the blood level.
Well, so yeah, there seems to be kind of two things cooking here. The first is obviously, and I'm glad he seems to be doing better, so thank God on that.
Well, I'm waiting. We're waiting on some internal testing because he's a big believer in holistic therapies. And the only thing with holistic as opposed to drugs, holistic typically is not as fast response time. You know, what I always think about drugs is I personally have a little bit borderline high blood pressure, so I'm monitoring that. But I always was amazed at a hospital that an anesthesiologist could come in there and just administer a few quick things and take a body out, like instantly, okay? Which is pretty cool technology when you think about it. They're obviously some of the smarter people. And the people with the air chamber, that was one of the first people that they contacted because you have a controlled input of oxygen. And what does the body also take up? There's a lot of people saying, oh, we need to have some type of hyperbaric chamber, or, oh, we need to have this. Trump yesterday was promoting the spacesuit. But you got to look at the core values. We need to slow this thing down, and we need to do it right because, you know, you put oxygen in, what comes out? Carbon dioxide. So these chambers that some people are building in their garages, they're actually setting up to kill yourself. Like, you ever hear when people want to commit suicide, they sit inside their car in a garage? It's no different. So the patent that the people that are also at the Trump hotel showed me, it's brilliant. It puts oxygen in, and it takes oxygen out. It monitors the temperature. They also have a method using high-frequency LED lights to simulate the skin. So it kind of gets the skin in a thirsty position, and it starts sucking in the oxygen. Just imagine down by your knees and your feet. Okay, and that's why this concept, I got to tell you, I've read a lot, and I've seen a lot. I've seen some crazy stuff, but I've seen some cool stuff. I've seen expensive stuff, and I've seen free stuff. They told me their price points to produce this. They're going to come out with a residential version for $2,200 that consumers can buy. They're going to come out with a $4,400 institutional one and a medical one for hospital for $6,600. What's the last known prevailing price of a ventilator that you've heard about? It's what, $30,000, $40,000? It's out of control.
Easily.
And these people got it down, and somebody needs to call them, because I tell you what, I'm going to buy one for my family.
Well, I think it's tricky because then you got to intubate and stuff, but I have heard that. Well, so all right, but so your message is this, and I just was checking out your site, so I don't forget to clicking. So you're basically, listen, you're like, we have our core beliefs that although there's a public health crisis, our core beliefs and our fabric of our DNA is to be free, and we believe that people should be personally responsible for their health and safety, and if there's guidelines, they should adhere to them. But in the same token, if I want to open up my restaurant and have full seating within appropriate guidelines, that's essentially your message, correct?
Absolutely. You have to, or as Trump says, the invisible enemy will have won, because at that point in time, the cure becomes worse than the problem, which is actually the reason people are starving is because what money they are being given isn't enough for what their needs were. It's simply not. Yeah. And look at the example I just stated about the lottery machines. They should have turned those things off. If the government truly cared, they should have turned off the lottery machines first. Okay, in New Orleans, it was well documented when FEMA started giving out these tranches of money to all these people. Best Buy, they had people just taking all their brand new TVs, spending $250 on Nike shoes. It was absurd. Okay? And guess what those people, but it's hard to retrain somebody overnight. And sadly, it's all a lack of education and discipline. And that's where we really need to focus. So one of the platforms we're going to be coming out with is do more with less. It's going back to the John F. Kennedy speech. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? And that's who I saw at the rally in Denver. It is the epitome of what I saw at the protests. Keep in mind, you have a rally in Denver for people wanting to be let out. What do you have in D.C. at the President's Hotel? You got a protest. And by the way, we also found out that the protesters weren't real protesters. They were paid to attend. What does that tell you? There's some really messed up stuff that needs to be cleaned up one day at a time.
Well, here's the thing, and in the interest of time, you're bringing up a lot of layered stuff. So I'm going to...
And look, and our teams are available, not only myself but others. I know we have some great folks that help support us. So far, I am self-funded. My whole belief in the free enterprise system in America, because I was that young entrepreneur. I started work at 12 years old. I'm 57. I was an entrepreneur before the word entrepreneur existed in the dictionary. Okay? My history is simple. I'm a kindergarten dropout. My father invented the very first inflatable amusement ride, the bouncy castle thing. Mom started to run it, and I took it and I spreaded it globally. And when I hit 200 locations, I turned it over to my son, and he's growing it to 888 locations. That's free enterprise.
No, I agree with you. Just the challenge I have is I'm a numbers-driven guy. As an entrepreneur, we're often driven by numbers. And if Georgia wants to dip their toe in the pond, they want to open up, the people want to work. If you leave the house, you have the right to do so, I guess, as of today. But what happens if the numbers go back up? What happens if the community spread?
We are in – well, I think we have to go to the far extremes and come backwards. Is that this is going to be the new words of 2020 is reverse globalization. We're going to have to get down to the point in society, and this almost goes back to the playbook that the Pilgrims had when they came over. You know, each person had a talent, and even in the Bible, if you look, everybody had a talent. And what do you do with those talents? Do you sit on them and hide them, or do you get out and you invest them and you use them? I mean, by the way, I don't know if it's actually on the site yet, but we approved the pages this morning. Our recommendation for a new tax structure, because keep in mind, if I don't even know what you call it, when we've given out all we possibly could humanly can in stimulus, and it just isn't enough, and we hadn't even started, okay? When you played the basic game of either life or Monopoly as a kid, you know, when you were running out of funds, you probably got creative on how you're going to get extra money from the banker. Maybe you mortgaged something, maybe you borrowed, but you wanted to hang in the game, right? And that's what's really going on here. People want to do what they want to do. What I think is really cool out of this, going into the retail stores and stuff, you're seeing where people care. I mean, bottle labels are all facing the same way. Floors are clean. They're cleaning behind the register. It's almost like every store that I've been to, the retailers, it looks like a brand new store. Sadly, when we were at a Wawa on M Street in D.C., close to Georgetown, the shelves are just absolutely packed with stuff. Absolutely. What's really crazy is one of the people in our group was wanting to buy some milk. And he had to really look deep at the expiration date because the volume has slowed down so much, they're not turning as much. And so the milks were all expiring on the shelf. So that kind of paints the picture is now all of a sudden we have loaded stores, but we have no money. When we went through Walmart it was actually in Kissimmee, Florida, right by Walt Disney World, where our firm does some work on there, the ramen noodles aisle, it was devastating. It was worse than the water aisle. It was worse than the toilet paper aisle because that was the bare essential of eating. I mean, these people, it didn't have a chance. You know how you can buy the ramen noodles in the case packs? They were just gone, and they couldn't keep up. And so, you know, I never quite understood the toilet paper thing other than people just said, oh, I got to go run and get it. But let's be realistic. You can have a backup plan because toilets are typically in a bathroom, and most bathrooms have a shower or bathtub associated with it. So if you had to clean yourself, you could have run to it and saved yourself some paper, right? I mean,
not the thing I want to imagine right now visually, but I get what you're saying. No, Frank, listen, I'm in agreement with all of it, with the exception of, you know, I want our businesses to operate. I want the free market to come back, but I just believe this health crisis doesn't. Now, here's the deal: it doesn't supersede our civil liberties. I'm not saying that. Okay. Well, what I am saying is it supersedes our healthcare system, our health. And what happens is if we do open up too soon and there is community spread, it's going to tax our healthcare system, which in turn is going to have to get backstopped by either the state or federal government, and kind of we get out of it. We have this hamster wheel. And then the other part too is really think about. But here's the other part. Right? I want to challenge you on this, and I want to challenge you on this. Not really again in the interest of time. We don't have enough time. But there's an argument that opening too soon in the long run may also have a negative economic a negative effect on the economy long term, because now, okay, so everything opens up in my state, right? And I'm very gingerly. I'm like a late adopter. Like, I didn't go on a plane after 9/11 for like 2-3 years. It's just me. I'm a late adopter. A little PTSD going on. Just for me personally, it's going to take me a while to get back to the old normal and probably adopt to a new normal, right? So what I'm saying is, if you open up a restaurant today, I'm not going to bring, my girlfriend there. I'm not going to bring my kids there. I'm not going to bring people there that I care about. So I'm worried about infecting them. I'm worried about affecting myself. If that happens today, it's going to have a long-lasting effect on me going to restaurants versus, hey, we have testing. We test our staff. We have the gun. We have social distancing. We took out half the tables. Your server is going to wear gloves, wear a mask. I'm not saying it's the best dining experience. But what I'm getting at is, if I feel comfortable, I will go out and spend. If I feel uncomfortable, I'm not, and it may have an effect on my behavior in the long run. That's why I think opening up too quick may not be the best economic move in the long run. But that's just my opinion.
Can I suggest something?
Yeah, please, because I'd like to see what your thoughts on that are.
So first off, I'm not denying that you have to take precautions. You certainly need to be fully aware of that. I mean, and that is where testing actually shows really what's happening. I mean, it's in the numbers. Trust. I mean, even simply from demographics alone. But what's also in the numbers is the volume of business that stores doing. What we've been seeing, especially in New Orleans, is that the wonderful restaurants in the French Quarter, the historic French restaurants and stuff, they are open, but they're following all the protocol, but they're only doing about 15% of the volume that they did before. So you just missed that 85%. And the ones who's actually actively engaged in actually serving, we've met so many owners because of that. But here's the real hook, line, and sinker. And this is the thud that we don't want to hear, is seeing that they're now down in the 15% volume, like that Wawa I mentioned was the same. They told me is some reason 15% of normal volume seems to be the prevailing rate. I will say this, in the Trump Hotel, which has over 500 rooms, there's a total of 8 rooms in use. 6 of them is with my communications team. We're 6 out of 8 in a 500-room hotel.
I was going to ask you, though, is it open, like, to the public?
100%.
And people just opting not to go there?
Excuse me?
Like, I'm thinking, like,
if you're in D.C., I'd love to have dinner with you tonight. I'd treat you.
I would have a fruitful exchange with you, but still in Jersey. But here's my point. I'm confused because I know in New Jersey hotels are open, but they are like certain ones and they're considered essential, right? But in D.C., like, you can go to a regular hotel?
Okay, here's the thing. The rooms are open. The room service is open. The restaurants are closed. Even in the lobbies, they have gotten rid of all the coffee machines. We stay in a lot of hotels. In the one hotel we were in Denver was a little different. What they go by is the local authority writes the set of rules. Okay, let me tell you how they kind of. I don't necessarily say they broke the rules, but what they followed is we were having a press event in Denver, and we needed seating for 8 people. So they had a boardroom at this hotel, and they said, I'm sorry, you can't use that boardroom. However, the manager, because when they see production crews show up with wanting to do business, they said, this is what we can do. We have a breakfast area that accommodates 40 people. We can space the seats out every 6 feet, and we will let you sit in there. So they turned the breakfast area into the boardroom. It was very creative thinking because the governor who wrote the bill said just shut down conference rooms. He didn't say shut down every room. So they followed the rules, and it was commendable. Now, let me tell you about that thud that we didn't finish with. Think about this. If restaurants are just doing 15% of what they used to do, how are they going to be able to exist with their obligations with rent? how are they going to be able to take care of all these people that get the PPP payroll that, by the way, you have to rehire them in order to have to retire them. You have to have the need. There's no substantiated need until we get back to volume. So I personally don't like the way they set it up for that. I think they had to do something, and regrettably, once again, I did vote for Trump, but I will tell you, so I'm blue in the face, I am not a Trumpster. I listen to what they say. I analyze it bit by bit. And by the way, if I was such a Trumpster, why would we have launched Liberate America now? We support and we respect our president. Doesn't mean that we agree. We actually think, and I'll close with this. I don't know if it's posted on there yet, but with our economists and stuff behind the scenes, especially with all the money we're throwing out there, we said this is no greater time than ever to come out with a national flat tax of a straight-out 10%, no more, no less. So when we restart the government, when we get back off of being down on our knees, let's do it the right way. There is so much fluff. Watch this magic. So there's a guy in Orlando building a 100,000 square foot house. He's called it Versailles. There's a one-bedroom apartment in Georgetown, okay? Probably 800 square feet. It's very expensive because it's in Georgetown. But you know what those two properties, the large one and the real small one, have in common? The bed and the commode is the same in both of them. Everything else is fluff. And that's why you've got to learn to do more with less. This is the recorrection. This is
yeah. I actually that makes sense, and I'll give you that. And then the other thing is, like, I watch a lot of those prepper shows now, and listen, like they're justifying their actions. Like, you know, we probably have 2 weeks of food and stuff in our house, but we should have 2 months worth. I mean, I'll be transparent. Like, I wanted to have you on. I still may not agree with a lot of the stuff you're saying, but what is it, Voltaire said, I may not agree with what you're saying, but I'll fight for the death for the right to say it. So, like, I actually agree. You should have your voice, and I don't disagree because I'm starting to really hurt economically, and, you know, there's cost to that. I gained like 20 pounds. I'm like getting depressed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, like, don't just, like, not working and saving for the car. You know?
So we've been asked to champion several great causes have come to us, and our organization, which I have a foundation, it's called the No Liquor Foundation. And you're saying, what the heck is a no liquor? No liquor is the word religion spelled backwards. Okay, the owners of my company, which including my family, we believe in tithing out of the Old Testament. So we take 10% that comes in, the first fruit, and we give it out, right? It's a biblical principle.
Yeah.
When that happens and you follow the rules, guess what happens to your money? It grows. Okay, so it's a whole. You put it out there, it comes back, and I'm familiar with that concept. The first $1 million that I made, you know what I did? I gave away $100,000. Imagine that. It's pretty cool concept. You give away $1 million, you get 10 back. God's principles, you can't mess with that. This is the guy that knows how many hairs on your head, right? However, what's really cool is because of all these disasters, there's a group out of a town called Celebration, Florida, that when the Pulse shooting happened about 3 or 4 years ago, they wrote a script called the GOSH Plan. That's GOSH. It stands for Global Offensive of Spreading of Happiness. They actually emailed me their brochure this morning, and they want to be the first responders of fun. And here's why that's important, is while these times get bad, you know, we didn't even talk about the real pandemic. What happens when people start choosing which bridge to jump off of? That's going to be the real tragedy. Okay? So they're trying to get there. There's no way that the health care, the counselors, the psychiatrists and therapists, there's no way that they can be equipped to handle the needs that are coming. So this group has done a lot of studies and traveled the world. They're in the amusement entertainment business. Check this out. Dubai in their cabinet has actually a minister of fun. They had an article in the Wall Street Journal about a year ago. And that was the coolest thing to think about, which when you get to the core values of it, go back to the days when it was a more simpler life when you was a kid, what you really look forward to. Maybe it was the birthday party. Maybe it was the family vacation. It probably wasn't going to work every day. Okay, and depending on your relationship at home and your relationship at school, kids are sponges. If you let kids learn, they're going to learn. One of the best times that I had in Denver, we went out we picked up some to-go because we couldn't eat inside the restaurant, so we got to-go Thai food. And we went inside. The owner and his wife actually made the meals, and they had two wonderful kids, one 6 years old and one 8 years old. They were riding their bicycles inside of this nice little bitty restaurant that probably sat 150, 200 people. And I saw a bond between the kids and their parents, which that's going to be the benefit. So, you always hear about, the parents never have time for the kids. Now they do. So this is like the ultimate forcing of homeschooling. It's actually home loving the way we look at it, is people can say, wow, you get to know your kids. You get to be a positive role model in what they're doing. That's the good side. And by the way, when times really get bad, who do most people turn to first? Their friends and family to help them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, listen, there's a lot to digest. I'm going to keep in touch because, I'm closely watching.
We'd love you to.
Yeah, and I'm going to closely watch to see what happens in Georgia. And the truth of the matter is, and I want to say this before, because they're opening today, there's going to be increases in there organically. And then Atlantic came out.
That's not proven, but it should be tested, and then we react. And if that's what I'm saying. I have a feeling that, they're going to open, and I still don't agree with it, but again, I respect your opinion. But they're going to open, and there's going to be an increase in Georgia, and we're not going to know, and respectfully, we're not going to know if it's from community spread or whatever. My point being is, I think they're going to, I think they're going to beat it up if there's any increase and attribute it to that. I just hope that our scientists. Well, think about the overreaction in New York to ventilators. Think about the overreaction to hospital beds, even in my hometown of New Orleans. At the convention center, FEMA built.
Well, because that got modeled out, and
hospital beds.
But here's the thing, though, and God, because I promise we'll cut this short, but it was modeled out, and because of mitigation, it started to bend the curve, therefore not needing that stuff. So I can't give you that one, Frank. I'm with you. The model said, hey, we're going to have 100,000 beds.
So let me take the negative and turn it into the positive. And how about this? When our driver drove us around D.C. last night, we saw more than 200 homeless people in tents and blankets from in front of the White House to Pelosi's houses and beyond. And it's hard to believe our elected leaders don't take it serious when it's in front of their eyes. So this is what I would like to challenge you to help me do this. FEMA built a 1,000-bed hospital in 3 days at our convention center in New Orleans. Yeah. To support that, they brought in all these trailers that were they were split into little living cubicles, like four stackable living quarters on semi-trucks, and they're all over. I don't know what the capacity is, but it's probably well in excess of 500. So they had them in their arsenal. Now they've been exposed to the virus, okay? They should be cleaned and sanitized, and I personally think somebody should swoop up the homeless off the streets in New Orleans and put them in there.
Yeah, that's
and take advantage of it.
That I'll give you that one, Frank. That's a good point. That's a very good point.
All right.
Very good point. Very good point.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, Frank, this has been great. So Frank is Liberate Now, Open America Now.
Liberate America Now.
Liberate America Now. And I went on your website. It looked like liberateamericanow.org is your primary, and then it redirects to, I think, liberateamerica.com. Is that correct?
We are because this came about so fast, the answer is we're catching up, but we are a .org, but we also got the .com because
yeah, maybe right. I'm a digital marketer. That's common. I'm a digital marketer. That's common to redirect. It doesn't change your mission in any way. So that's common. I saw that. But my point being is, go to LiberateAmericaNow.org. We'll keep in touch, Frank, and thank you for being on the New Theory podcast.
We appreciate it. And anything we can do for you guys, just let us know. We like solutions.
Will do.